We've all had the experience as graffiti writers of seeing a nice juicy spot that we just know would look so much better with our tag on it, but we just don't have the right tool for the job. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's because for some reason I brought 5 mops and not a single solid stick, or whatever the situation may be. That's just how it is. The point is, for those graffiti artists campusing an area that they're particularly unfamiliar with, you don't necessarily know what surfaces you're going to come across and what markers you're going to need for them until you see the spot itself. So to solve that problem, today we are going to be talking about a combination of 5 essential graffiti markers and mops that you need for street tagging. Now, this isn't going to be a list of 5 super versatile markers or anything like that. We've already done a video like that. This is more going to be a group of 5 markers so that at any given time, in any situation, you should have the perfect marker or mop for the job. And one of my main motivations to make this video was actually just because I want to know what you guys use as your essentials. What are your carries for everyday use? Would love to see your little list in the comments. Would love to read that and gain a bit more knowledge myself from you guys. So let's get into it. Number 5. Now I'm going to start off with a very situational mop right away, and that is the shoe polish mop. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why more people don't carry one of these around. These are a great tool. They do all the same things that a normal drip mop does, just with fewer drips and a better ability to see the motion in the lines of a tag. And I think that is a very underrated part of how tagging works. These are the perfect tool for any bigger metal or glass surface, and that's really why you want to have one with you, in my opinion. I'm ashamed to admit I only have the one shoe polish mop. What it is it's actually an on-the-run product which got pretty promptly discontinued after they started making it. It's the on-the-run street polisher mop. This one's a mini version, and they really did us wrong by making it a hard body marker rather than a squeezable one, which might have been its downfall really. Nowadays, since I don't get enough opportunity to talk about a lot of the great stuff happening over at Art Primo, I'd really recommend maybe the Big Squeeze over at AP. They have an Art Primo branded one there. It's a bigger one, squeezable body. You can write with the drips, or you can do like I like to do and just not squeeze so much. The sponge will make the lines without the drips, and you can serve a bit more paint that way. Alternatively, if you don't want to bring around a shoe polisher mop with you because they are very niche, the nibs are particularly susceptible to tearing and catching on things. Alternatively, you could use like a 20mm drip mop. This is my go-to in the past. Obviously haven't used it too recently, but it's the 20mm Grog Squeezer Mini here. Number 4. So with a nice 20mm drip mop or a shoe polish mop covering your bigger metal and glass surfaces, we can start thinking about the more normal, common size metal surfaces such as the doorways, even bus stop type stuff that you see, all the common areas where you see graffiti tags out in your normal city world. And because those surfaces are so common, it's nice to have a bit of variety. And because of that, the number 4 carry for this 5 essentials list here is a Chisel Tip graffiti marker. Now, there's plenty of Chisel Tips out there. There's some as wide as, the Molotov Masterpiece, which I find totally useless. And then there's some as small as your nice Grog Cutter Minis here. Now this one has an 8mm nib. I'd say anything between about a 5mm chisel tip and a 12mm chisel tip is going to be the best for a variety of different size surfaces. The Grog Cutter personally has always been my go-to out of the chisel tips. The nibs that you get on them aren't the best. You have to replace them fairly often. Other than that, I really enjoy them. Number 3. Now, I know a lot of graffiti artists won't leave the house without one of these ever. Hands down, if it's not in their pocket, it's because they've got one spare in the glove compartment of their car. And that is, of course, a good whiteout pen. Now, there's plenty of options out there for different whiteout pens. There's a bunch of different shapes and sizes of them you can get. But I actually opt for a bigger tool. As a big fan of ground tags, the number 3 one that I'd like to put on this list is something like a Grog Metalhead. Alternatively, or in addition, you could also bring with you something like a crankcase K66. There's plenty of cheaper ones out there than the K66 that do the exact same thing. You've got to be careful with these metal heads. The ballpoints actually aren't that strong. They're just the best things I've found for ground tags in particular. The K66 as well, it's very situational, but that's sort of why it's on this list. Every now and then you'll just see a surface and you know that it needs one of those very thin lined, juicy, drippy tags on it. Number 2. This one is something that I am a big fan of, and I think that every graffiti artist should start to use one of these. And although every single person on this channel has had more than enough of me talking about how much I love these Mark B paint sticks, I'm actually not recommending those for today. Instead, what I am recommending is almost any other solid paint stick. What I'm getting at here is you want a good Sakura streaker with you, even a more expensive one like it was hand mixed, something like that. Something soft. Soft is the key here, so that you can write on a bunch of different surfaces out and about. When you come across a surface like a cement, a cinder block, even some kind of wood, you'll pull out your 5 essential graffiti markers that you never leave the house without, and you'll realize, oh, the only thing I have for this is a solid stick. And that's usually why you have one of these. They work really well on just about everything, but there are some surfaces that these are essential for, and nothing else will do the job quite like it. Number 1. This final one to bring the whole package together at the end of the day is really what I'm gonna call the glue of this sort of 5 marker combo. And it is, of course, just a gorgeous 10mm drip mop. I don't know if it's just because the 10mm size in particular for me is the most comfortable for me to write with, but I just find there's always a surface that's the right size and smoothness for a 10mm drip mop. I enjoy the ones with a fatter body. Personally, I actually do really like the Flex 15 dang mops that Bombing Science came out with about a year and a bit ago now. Or I'm personally a big fan of the OTR 004 Chisel Tip markers. Very squeezable, fat body. You can carry lots of paint around in these. Even the Crank K60 itself is admittedly really nice to write with, although it is still on our list of the top 5 worst graffiti supplies, mostly because of its exorbitant prices. Speaking of which, if you did want to check out the top 5 worst graffiti supplies on the market so that you don't end up with any of those in your 5 essential graffiti marker combo kit, you can check that video out on screen right now. I hope to see you over there soon. Until then, peace.